Hello everyone, welcome back to CAMNES Studio. In this episode we are going to focus on the ancient Roman symbols present in the Nazi and fascist movement, the rhetorics, how they were employed in their party in the beginning and all their movement, we could say. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Okay guys, we're going to take a look at 5 main symbols. There are also many more, and there are also other types of symbols employed in their power communication, let's say. But we're going to focus, as we have said, on ancient Rome, the Roman heritage, we could say. Before diving in that part, though, it is very useful to understand a little bit better the background, hence why they were chosen. So first of all, let's say that fascism and Nazism have their roots actually in socialism. It is an extreme development, negative development of socialism. In fact, Mussolini was the director of the Avanti, the main journal of socialists, and also, as the name itself of Nazism is actually the contraction of National Socialism. So you can immediately understand the roots of this. And they felt they were doing something incredible, okay? Something huge, something that was actually changing, and it was going to change completely everything, the world. So they felt quite empowered, but they knew they needed a background, their history, their heritage, something that would somehow almost justify their decisions, their attitude, we could say. So there was this myth of ancient Rome, of the empire of ancient Rome, which conquered most of the Western and Eastern civilization at the time. So clearly this was the main reference, especially the fascists who came first, and then also the Nazi were greatly were greatly inspired by this. Also because actually there was a fil rouge, a thin red line that connected the fascist, let's say, empire, since also Italy had a colony in Ethiopia, but also the German Empire. In fact, we talk about the Third Reich, and which are the other two before the Nazi one. Well, first it was the Sacred Holy Empire, which comes directly from the Roman Empire, okay, with Charlemagne. Then we have the German Empire, all the way up to then in the early part of the 20th century with the Nazi Party. So that's why we talk about Third Reich, and that's also a direct connection with the Roman heritage. The same, clearly, fascism, Mussolini and his party, which clearly were also present in Italy, in Rome. So in Rome itself, the capital, but also the Roman first state, we could say, since Italy is a modern concept and Lazio itself is a Roman concept, even though they were called, the tribe were the Latini. That's why we talk about Latin languages. But apart from this, let's focus now on the symbols. Let's start from the most important of all, the fascists. That's the main element, the main symbol, at least for the fascist party. And what is that typical symbol you can see here? Well, actually, there are branches of elm and birch tied together with usually red leather strips. And in most cases, not always, in most cases, there was also an axe present. That's what we usually see when we talk about fascism and fascist symbols. Fascism comes from the fascists, the branches, the wrapping of those branches. That's what are the fascists. But what were they in ancient Rome? Now, the fascists, the facilitori, who were the littori? The littori were we could say, the guard, those who were responsible to defend, to escort the magistrates. which is one of the most highest positions, officials in ancient Rome, who decided a lot. In fact, they also added the axe when they were outside the pomerium, the sacred limit of the city, because you cannot keep that inside the city, to emphasize, to underline their decision of death and life, the justice, the power, what they represented and what they could actually do. So not only it was an instrument to defend the magistrate, but obviously slowly it became the symbol of the magistrate and those who were accompanying him, the littori. Behind this, behind the capital punishment, the power, we can also see a positive concept actually, which is that single branches can be broken easily, but when they're tied and put together, they're practically unbreakable. So that was also the concept behind and that fascism greatly relied on. Together, we can win. On a side note, it's interesting to know that this symbol is present also in other moments in history and connected to other cultures. So not just these terrible moments and these ideologies. For example, there is the famous Lincoln Memorial where there is the statue of Lincoln sitting down, as you can see, and his hands are on two groups of fascists. So America in general is filled with other typical symbols connected to ancient Rome, because there is this ideology, the same ancient Roman ideology throughout the city, the layout of Washington in all its monuments. Also, the statue of Washington itself bears a fascist, if we think about it. Let's proceed. Another very important symbol, which is used in both regimes, was the eagle, greatly present. Eagles are always been associated to power. Even America has its eagle. But it comes from that. It comes from ancient Rome, also in America and the US, because it was the symbol of Zeus, who was the protector of the state. And once again, at a certain point, it started to symbolize Rome, the state itself. Hence, that's why it's always adopted. Like, for example, we see it on top of the insignia SPQR, which is not "these Romans are crazy," like Asterix used to say. Sono pazzi questi Romani, but it means Senatus Populusque of Rome, so the Senate and the people of Rome. Another important symbol, which is mainly associated, I would say, to the fascist movement, not so much in the Nazi movement, is the she-wolf, which we can find a lot still today in Rome, because it's mainly connected to the city of Rome rather than the Roman power, even though it was a famous symbol. Why? Because the she-wolf was the wolf that nurtured, that milked Romulus, who is the founder of Rome. So that's why we find the Romulus and Remo underneath the she-wolf, usually, who she is growing them up, she is milking them, and at that point we find that for several decades. And the symbol, as we will see, is very ancient, very old, as all these symbols actually are. Another symbol, which is actually more a display of power, a display of military power, and also a connection, clearly, with the past, with ancient Rome, is the so-called goose step, or the Stechschritt in Germany, or simply the Roman step in the fascist environment. And this is true. I mean, this was adopted, this was used, it was a little more emphasized by the Nazis. The fascists adopted the one more similar to the ancient one, which was actually adopted by the troops in ancient Rome. Another important symbol that we see a lot, and still today, unfortunately, but it was typical in the fascist and Nazi environment, is the salute, the Roman, it's called the Roman salute, which is when you hire your arm in a certain way, well, or in front of you. Well, that is actually a fake. That is not true, or at least there is no documentation, no information of the past that tells us that this was used, adopted in the ancient Roman environment. So this actually was something mystified, not true. But it gained popularity, and it was broadly adopted by the two parties. Now, these are the main symbols, though I want to spend a few words on the true origins, the true roots of these symbols. These symbols actually were not of Roman origin. Yes, they were of Etruscan origin. All the symbols I told you, not only actually, also other famous symbols of ancient Rome, like the sella curule, a specific type of chair, la toga purpurea, the purple toga, along with other symbols, all came from Etruria, from the Etruscans, and some say actually from a specific city, Vetulonia. Well, we're not sure about that. In any case, we're sure that these symbols that became famous in ancient Roman times come from the Etruscans. Very fascinating. In fact, for example, the she-wolf statue, very famous in Rome, is most probably an Etruscan artifact. The two kids below, the Romulus and Remus statues, come from the Renaissance because they were probably lost. In any case, the she-wolf is of Etruscan origin, most probably. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments here below. We're very interested. If you have further questions, go ahead. We'll try to reply on camera. As you know, our email address is ask@camnes.org. What else can I say? Understanding the past explains the present and defines our future. Thank you. Hi guys, if you want to discover more about archaeology and our ancient past from a different perspective, make sure to click on the CAMNES logo here below. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you will never miss an episode and join the archaeological community in search of the truth.